And welcome to our October edition of Sports Highlights on the road, this time from one of our schools at Heritage High School in Newport News. Greg BICOUVARIS, glad you're with us, at Greg Bic on Twitter. Our show runs on Mondays at 7, 2, and 7 on Cox Cable 47 and 517 in Newport News, and weekends at 9 a.m. It's a pleasure to lead off the show with Jim MAYHEW, and Jim's been a referee for several decades and been involved in management with referees as well. Jim, good to see you.
Good to see you, Greg.
Tell us your full-time position now with the refs.
I'm a board member, and I'm one of the 8 crew chiefs within the association.
But first of all, tell us about your sports background, how you got started in sports.
Well, I grew up playing a little bit of everything. I played baseball and football through the rec leagues, Little League, and so on. I played baseball in high school, and then I guess about 4 years after I graduated, I started umpiring high school baseball. Been doing it ever since. And in '94, I decided I wanted to give football a try, and I've been doing high school football ever since.
The one good thing about football is it's usually once a week, and Friday night's the big night. But now, the last several decades, they play on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
You're right, and that means that rather than getting one game a week, we get some weeks a second game. Typically, for me, a regular season consists of about 16 or 17 games in a 11-week season.
Well, in baseball, you might do that in several weeks as well.
Yeah. In baseball, I've done as many as 40 games in a high school regular season.
We're talking to Jim MAYHEW, one of the chief strategists, I call him, for referees in the Peninsula, and talk about some of the schools and the districts and the area that you cover geography-wise.
Well, we cover as far west and south as Southampton through the years. We're not we are covering them in football, but not in baseball. And as far west as New Kent during the regular season, as far north as Gloucester, and of course all the Peninsula teams.
How much drama has it been for the Virginia High School League reshuffling all the different divisions? Because you can put it on paper and it's still, even today, very confusing for the fan or even the referee to understand.
You're right. I would venture to say that most of our officials really don't have a full appreciation of what division all these teams really belong in now. You find that out for most of our guys when playoff assignments are made at the end of the year.
Right. Talking to Jim MAYHEW right here on our October edition of Sports Highlights. For more, go to nnpstv.com. And, of course, the rules change constantly. I'm sure it's changed a lot since the 90s.
You're right. There have been a number of changes, but primarily the changes are related to safety. You see it at all levels of football. They're trying to take the head out of the game, make sure that concussions are not an issue, and spinal injuries, you name it. But safety has been the driving force, I'd say, behind most of the changes that have occurred in the last 20 years.
And with that said, it's still amazing how you watch a high school, college, or pro game and how many defenders lead with their head.
You're absolutely right, and I'm not sure what it's going to take to really reduce that significantly, but I guess they'll just keep meting out rule changes and punishments to try to regulate it that way.
How do you and Mick McCullough decide the schedules and the crews? And I'm sure that some crews, like anybody else in walks of life, work along better with others. And rankings as far as going to the state championships, it's all based on how the regular season goes.
Absolutely. Mick likes to say every year that your performance on the field will dictate what type of schedule you get, and particularly that's true for the postseason. He has 2 or 3 other guys that go out with him each week and see at least one game, and most weeks 2, and they film the games and evaluate the crews. They put those crews or those films on our website, and all of us can review it and hear his comments about what we're doing well and what we're not doing so well. Then at the end of the year, that committee gets together, led by Mick, and they decide which crews will get playoff games up through, say, the regionals. But beyond the regionals, he selects the positions, position by position, not an entire crew sticking together. So you may have 3 or 4 different crews represented on a single playoff crew for the state games.
And folks, these are paid positions too, and a lot of that comes to attrition, health, retirement, people moving on, people relocating. So it's not the same crew every year just because of all that said.
That's true. We have turnover every year. I'm fortunate enough to say that my crew has been intact now for 3 years, and there are 4 of us on the crew that have been together for 11 of the 12 years that I've been a crew chief. So we're unusual in that regard. Some of the other crews, have had some turnover each year. So as people move out of the area or decide that they are not able to do it any longer, we have to make changes to each of the crews.
As a lot of viewers notice, some of the things over the last several years I've said is our 26-year of football coverage, and we're under the umbrella of the Virginia High School League as well. And the 12-minute quarters is one thing people who listen to and watch our games always know. It's 12-minute quarters. With that said, the length of games, whether it's in any sport, you hear a lot about it in professional baseball, Major League Baseball. How cognizant are you as far as people's time, or is that almost irrelevant to what's going on in the field?
No, I'd have to say it's irrelevant. Each game is going to play out differently. VHSL instituted the mercy rule a number of years back, so that if you have a 35-point spread at any point in the second half, you go to a running clock. Now, if the score drops back or the differential drops back below that 35-point spread, you go back to normal clock management. But if you get 2 teams that want to throw the ball a lot, and we see more and more of that in today's football, if they're not connecting on those passes, it can be a very long game. If you get 2 teams that are ground-oriented, you can have a very quick game, and it's very dependent on the style of play they want to use that week and how cleanly they play the game. If you have tons of penalties, that also slows the game down.
Not to mention coaches complaining too, and sometimes you have to tune that out.
Oh, for sure. If you are too concerned about what the coaches are saying to you, you're not going to do your job, and it's really not something you ought to be doing. You probably ought to look for another hobby.
Talking to Jim Mayhew, and folks are taking you behind the scenes, what it's like to be an official, be a referee. He's also been involved in management, also baseball as well. It's a lot of time, talent, and treasure to do this because it's a lot of football involved, and it starts earlier and earlier. Started a couple months ago in August. It can go through December. Yes,
our meetings for the regular or for the general membership begin in early July. And we meet weekly for about a month and a half. Through mid-September. We have been meeting weekly since early July. We are just now getting ready to go to bi-weekly meetings the rest of the season. It's a large time commitment if you want to do this and put everything you can into it.
Are there referees that say to Mick, I want to do more than 1 game a week? Or is he trying not to burn somebody out and say, okay, Thursday night's your night, Friday night's your night, Saturday's your day? How does that all work out? Because in certain cities, it's different protocol.
Well, it really depends on the level at which Mick feels comfortable using the officials. The guys that are new to us are working middle school games, they're working JV games, and they're working chain crews on Friday or Saturdays, Thursdays, Fridays, or Saturdays. The guys who are on crews, as I said earlier, you're usually going to get 1 or 2 games a week. Some of those guys are also working with the junior varsity games to try to help the younger guys get experience and some tutelage.
Talking to Jim Mayhew, you talk about the safety of the players, the coaches, the fans all the time. But how about the officials? The last several years, you've seen a lot of players, especially kids, who are still immature at that age because they're teenagers, who try to attack the referee, and I think that's uncalled for, and a lot of time that's criminal behavior, whether it's high school, college, or professional.
I agree with you that would be criminal if it were to happen. I can tell you that I have not witnessed that myself, and I'm very thankful that I haven't. That would be something that would turn me off quickly about officiating. I'll have to say that the coaches do an excellent job of managing the kids and controlling the kids when it comes to that type of thing. Excuse me. There have been cases across the country where things like that have happened. We're very fortunate here on the Peninsula that we haven't seen that in many years. I know of one official probably 35 years ago or so who took a really bad hit, and it was suspicious on the part of the kid that did it.
Talking to Jim Mayhew, this is our October edition of Sports Highlights on the road from beautiful Heritage High School in Newport News, a school since the fall of 1996, coached by George Massenberg right here on the practice field. A lot goes on into officiating. You mentioned, as far as a lot of the games are concerned, how many games are involved as well. What advice would you give to a young person who wants to be an official?
Well, I can tell you, as a person who started with baseball and loved that game, I did not get into football until sometime later, and it was at the urging of several of my buddies who did both sports. And I'll tell you, I regret that I didn't start football much earlier, and the big reason is, once you're lucky enough to get to a crew assignment, you're working with the same people week in and week out, and you build a lot of camaraderie amongst the group. In baseball, I'll work with a different umpire virtually every game I go out there. Now, I may see the same guy about 3 times in a season, but 3 out of 40 is you don't gain the familiarity with each other that you do in football. We're able to work as a team very well.
With that said, there's other high school games. You mentioned you and Mick watch some games, college and professional on TV or in person. Do you try not to get clouded by what the other referees are doing at college or pro, or is it hard to, when you're watching a game at home, say he should have done that?
Oh, as an official, if you're serious about it, you're watching. When I watch a game, I'm watching the officials almost as much as I'm watching the players. I can tell you, and it's kind of crazy, but like a baseball game, if my wife and I go to watch a baseball game, my wife is just as bad about that as I am. We'll be watching the game. She'll say, that runner missed second base. It's just something that gets in your blood, that if you enjoy doing it, you're going to be, I don't want to say critical, but trying to learn as much as you can by what you see others at higher levels doing.
And with that said, it's been pretty consistent as far as part-time. High school, most people have careers. College, they have an insurance business or some type of career. That goes for basketball too. And the NFL, a lot of these gentlemen are lawyers or they have full-time careers. Should it be a full-time job?
That's a tough one for me to say. I can only speak from my own experience, and I can tell you, working a 40-hour week or more and then taking the time that's required to study and to do film study as well. I mean, there's the rules, there's the mechanics, and then there's film study that we try to take on at a periodic basis throughout the season. There's a time commitment, but at the professional level, I find it amazing that those guys can juggle the time requirements of a full-time job with the same travel and other commitments that they have at the professional level.
Right, because they're not at the same city. They're traveling on the weeknights, Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. All the best to you, and holidays too, folks. All the best to you and your family, and have a great rest of the football season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Very good. Jim Mayhew right there talking all about officials, referees, and what it takes to go behind the scenes to make it work for a 48-minute game. And, of course, they get the job done on weekends. It's all about the fun and the atmosphere of high school football. Stay tuned. We'll continue with more sports highlights on the road from Heritage High School.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a scientist. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. Our younger students have the right idea. Today's leading careers are involved in science, technology, engineering, and math. Newport News Public Schools has embarked on an aggressive STEM education initiative that prepares students to take full advantage of STEM opportunities in higher education and career fields. So, what do you want to be when you grow up?
And back to sports highlights from the road for our October fall edition. Glad you're with us. Greg BICOUVARIS along with Ray Price. Hope you enjoyed our first guest. It's a pleasure to talk to one of the quarterbacks here in the Peninsula, Jeremiah Boyd, class of 2017 in Heritage. Good to see you.
Nice seeing you too.
One thing about our games, we've done your games personally for the last 4 years. And, of course, as the school has grown, you've grown with your skills as well.
Yeah, Coach Mass came here and started a whole new program, so he was, building from the ground up. And as he's grown and built the team up in the program, I've grown myself and learned a lot about football.
Heritage had a rich tradition under John Quillen, of course. They won the state championship way back in 2000. Do you guys still talk about that, think about that? Because this could be a very special team this year.
Yes, we talk about it, a couple years before when we were real strong. They talked about it and mentioned it to me, like you said, Quillen. They talked to me about that, trying to live up to Cook, the quarterback, during that time. So they talked a lot and mentioned a lot to me.
When you talk about your skills when you were a kid playing Pee Wee football, talk about all the different positions you played. Of course, you've matured now into a quarterback.
Pee Wee, I didn't really play many skill positions. I moved from sitter and on out, so I was playing center, guard, tackle, and then I ended up playing tight end before I came to high school.
Talking to Jeremiah Boyd, the quarterback for the Heritage Hurricanes, how tough was it to practice during the summer when it was so hot a few months ago?
It was hard, but the coaches, they didn't take that as like an excuse. They pushed us. They still gave us breaks for water so we stay hydrated, but they still pushed us to our limits and made us get better.
And Jeremiah is a perfect example, folks, that I'm talking about. When a freshman can play varsity, you get so many different levels because a freshman can play varsity in the 9th grade year. You're a grown man now. That gave you a lot of confidence to go through the ups and downs for 4 years.
Yes, I honestly feel like I know so much front and back of the game since my freshman year. I learned so much, so I feel like I'm probably more one of the elite in the district because of my 9th grade year.
As far as running or passing, you've seen Michael Vick do both. What do you like to do?
I feel like my strengths, honestly, is passing the ball. That's what happened my freshman year, People aren't worried about me running. I can get outside the pocket, but I feel like my main strength is passing the ball.
As far as Coach Massenberg, what's it like playing for him? And, of course, you guys expect to make the postseason every year.
Yes, Coach Mass, he push you. He keep pushing you. When you think you at your lowest or weakest, Coach Mass keeps pushing you and pushing you.
What do you think about the high school kids that have to go both ways? Nate and I always talk about that during the games because in college and pro, usually just play one side of the ball. Do you prefer just to play quarterback and take a breather so you don't have to focus on defense? What are your thoughts about that?
Me, honestly, I like going both ways. It gets tiresome sometimes, but, your body doesn't get cold, your legs doesn't get cold on the sideline, waiting or whatever. Say the other team offense holding the ball for a long time, that means my legs are getting cold, my arms are getting cold. So I kind of like going both ways, keeps my body jumping, my blood flowing.
What do you think about during this summer, those 7-on-7 drills, quarterback passing drills? Is it too much pressure for the kids, or you just prefer your off-season conditioning and the practice with the football team?
To a certain extent in age, I feel like passing leagues and quarterback leagues and all that is good for young kids so they can learn coverages, they can learn drops, all that stuff.
And talk about your GPA and what are you looking forward to at the Naval Academy?
I'm looking for a real academic challenge, to better my knowledge of just life, things in general, and football.
And your GPA?
3.68.
Folks, there you go. That says it right there. We've televised this gentleman's games for 4 years at Heritage High School, and he's a role model on and off the football field. All the best to you in the Naval Academy in the future.
Thank you.
All right, Jeremiah Boyd right there, proud 2017 upcoming graduate of Heritage High School. We're in it for the students. This is one of the best right here. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Barbara Smith, and I'm with the Newport News Public Schools Department of Transportation. At the bus stop, students should stand away from the road in an orderly fashion and always be mindful of other people's property. While on the school bus, students should always behave, keeping their hands, heads, and any other objects inside the bus so as not to distract the driver from keeping their eyes on the road. Motorists must stop for a school bus and remain stopped until the bus's lights are off and begins to move again. Here at Transportation, our number one objective is the safety of the children.
And welcome back to our October edition of Sports Highlights on the Road. Yes, folks, we just came from Heritage. Now we're at Warwick High School, and a lot of people see this school more than any other school because it's right on Warwick Boulevard where the JV team practices. We've been doing their games literally since 1991. It's a pleasure now to talk to Zion Lucas, the quarterback for Warwick as a senior. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Greg.
Tell us about your background. You played some high school in Fredericksburg.
Yes, sir. My freshman year and 2 games of my sophomore year, I was in Northern Virginia at Chancellor High School, which where the school used me as like quarterback, receiver, and all that. Tried to get the most out of me.
How was it different from the competition there to here?
The competition there, it's like you catch a big kid every once in a while, as where when you're here, everybody's well built and you can feel the seriousness of how the game is.
How do you keep yourself fresh and focused because the season is very, very long?
Well, I like to make sure I study film and keep my body right, ice baths and all that, but keep my mind fresh as in studying different teams, tendencies and all that so that we can get the best production.
Which college and pro quarterbacks do you look up to?
Well, college quarterback, I like Greg Ward Jr. He's a dual threat quarterback. He's really like beauty to the eyes, the way he moves the ball, rushing and passing. And then in the NFL, I like Tom Brady because he's a field general, takes control of the game, and nothing's really too big for him.
We're talking to Zion Lucas, the quarterback of the Warwick High School, the Raiders, class of 2017. Excellent student as well. Played some ball, like you said, in Fredericksburg. As far as when people see you on TV and watch one of our games that we televise, run first, pass first, or you like both the same?
I would prefer to pass. I can run, but if the pass is open, I want to hit the pass first. I want to keep it like a well-balanced and keep the defense honest.
Last year was kind of a tough year, but this is a brand new season. You got still plenty of football in October, November, and hopefully beyond. What's been the turnaround this year? I guess the attitude is really good.
Yes, sir. We've just been working on changing the culture. We've had, a couple bad years, but this year we have a lot of talent, great coaching, and bringing everybody together so that things work out well.
We'll talk about some of your teammates that you look up to and how much practice do you do away from the regular practice?
Well, away from the field, I'm always with number 5, Elijah, Travis, Dre, a lot of my receivers and my linemen too, so that the chemistry is well.
I asked this same question to Jeremiah Boyd. Do you prefer to play one position, just quarterback, and take a break during defense and special teams, or you don't mind doing both ways?
I don't mind playing both ways. Whatever helps the team better, I'll do it all.
What type of hobbies do you like away from football?
I like to hang out with my family, go play basketball, things like that, hang out with my little sister.
Very nice. Talking to Zion Lucas right here, the quarterback of the Warwick Raiders. When you talk about the schedule, is it one game you look at or you treat every game the same?
I kind of treat every game the same. It's a different team every week, and yes, you're going to have some teams better than others, but you have to prepare for everybody the same way.
What advice would you give to a young kid who wants to play football in the future?
Well, first off, stay focused in your books because that's the most important. You're a student athlete, so classes come first. But make sure you do a lot of work away from just practice. You got to do a lot of stuff on your own to make yourself better than your competition.
How do you balance academics, athletics, and activities?
Well, we got study hall, so I get to knock out a lot of homework before we practice, go home. First thing I do is shower and then get my homework done.
We always talk about this during the games as far as nutrition. It's a long day. I mean, you're up early in the morning. Kind of give us the behind the scenes, what time you start your day on game day, and talk about some of the food and the liquids you put in your body.
Well, no matter what time the game is, like on weekends, I try to wake up around 6 o'clock, drinking a little smoothie, make sure I get a good breakfast in, and, make sure I'm well rested before the game.
Right. Give us a new perspective right here, folks. Zion Lucas, you got to love that name, Zion, the quarterback of the Warwick Raiders. Thank you so much.
No problem, Greg.
All right, thank you. All right, even call me by my first name. He knows it, the kid gets it, and he's got a great future ahead as well. Zion Lucas, the quarterback of the Warwick Raiders. Hope you enjoyed all of our guests today, folks. Jim Mayhew talking about officials and referees. We talked to Jeremiah Boyd, the quarterback of the Heritage Hurricanes, and Zion Lucas right here, the senior quarterback of the Warwick Raiders right here in Newport News. So for Ray Price, happy October. We'll talk to you soon. My name is Greg BICOUVARIS.